Welcome to the Across the Bar podcast. I'm Peter Raybar.
And I'm Laura Brownstein. And happy 4th of July weekend.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say I'm summer Laura Brownstein.
Yes.
You're in summer mode already.
I am actually working from the Eastern LBM Partners headquarters for the next month, which I'm really excited. We have two offices, three. And one of them is, we have a pop-up space in out east, as we like to call it.
Yeah. I heard LeBron James is out there. Have you run into him?
I think it would hurt to run into him.
You definitely don't want to run into LeBron James.
No.
Yeah. But in honor of 4th of July and in honor of summer, we brought back beverages. Also by popular demand, we brought them back.
My popular demand that if Peter was making me work today, that we were going to have some rosé.
So we both have some rosé here. Yours with ice. A lot of people like to drink rosé with ice. I personally do not, but you do. Do you want to explain why?
I think rosé is best enjoyed on ice, as cold as can be. I got raspberries at the farm stand this morning, smushed them up, put them in the freezer, and then put them in my rosé. This is a perfect segue to talking about PTO, which I thought I was having this afternoon until Peter disabused me of that. But unlimited PTO, farce or fuck yes? That's one of our topics. Another one is going to be, are millennials really toppling the baby boomer power structure? And so is that a good thing? And what else should we talk about?
Caitlin Clark, we got to talk about.
Yeah.
And the WNBA.
Okay.
And maybe some other people with some follow-up on the $100 million contracts. Should we dive in?
So it has been super hot in New York City. Last week, it was deadly. There were 2 days, I must admit, I barely left my apartment. And the Condé Nast union, what did they do?
They filed a grievance saying they should have been able to work at home during the heat wave. And look, I also want to say, last week when it was 100 degrees and we were recording this podcast, intern said we should talk about this exact topic, and you and I skipped over it. But once again, the intern was right. People were asking throughout New York, do we have to go to work in a heat wave, especially when we have to take subways and trains and buses and it's really hot? And, this is kind of a funny story in a way. Condé Nast is
on one hand, you and I, Gen Xers, we walked through the snow to get to a heat wave and climb a mountain.
Right.
To pay our dues while being latchkey kids.
Right. It's kind of funny. Most people will look at this story and say, another example of people being ridiculous and demanding. But here, there's a union and there's a contract that says employee safety has to be taken into concern. And if there's safety issues, remote working should be utilized. And so here the union saying we should have been allowed to work remotely now.
Here's my thing on this.
Okay.
I think that unions are important.
Yes.
I was part of a union for the very first time last year. I was part of the Campaign Workers Guild while I was on the Harris Walz campaign. But the rules for union contracts for presidential campaigns are a little different. They're kind of like, you can't work people more than 80 hours a week unless there's a good reason kind of thing. But they were great. And I think protecting workers is important. Triangle Shirtwaist Factory. When many Jewish women sewing shirtwaists in a factory near Union Square perished in a fire because there were not workplace protections. And that's what started the whole thing around workplace protections. Anyway, I digress. I just think there are people who have jobs that are dangerous to do in the heat. Like the fact that I think it was DeSantis last year did a ruling that people in Florida should not have to give their employees mandatory water breaks when working outside. That is criminal. That is what unions.
Well, he's a super caring guy. You know that.
I am just not sure it's to keep crabby art directors from getting on the subway.
So you're saying sometimes it goes too far. But look, here's
also fight the man.
Yeah. Look, so first of all, if you read about this story, just keep in mind it's in a union context and there's rules there. But some takeaways, if you're an employee and you have a legitimate health issue that's triggered by the heat and you need alternative work arrangements, go for it. you know?
I will not believe that anyone said to their manager, "It would be unhealthy for me to come in," and their manager said, "Yeah, but you need to." I don't believe.
Okay.
But then
Yeah.
again, I will say when I worked at Condé Nast during Hurricane Sandy, we were expected to be at our desks pretty much the day after, coming from,
I have a lot of
like, at
examples of
that
that.
point, no electricity. That was maybe more
Yeah.
dramatic.
Yeah. I have a lot of examples of ridiculous, stay in the office type mandates. But if you're a
Please
boss
do.
and it's during the summer or even during the winter and there's a weather event, and it's a good opportunity to score some points. Like during the summer, if it's
Yeah,
10
great point,
degrees, tell everyone they can work from home remotely.
great point.
That's a great way to score points. But, this is a union battle. There's other issues going on.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny, but there are a lot lessons to be drawn from it.
In general, I would advise, especially in this economy, all bosses, when you can score a free win, a freebie win, like look like a good guy and not really spend much money or any money, do it because times are tough right now.
Well, and that brings us to one of the other topics we wanted to talk about today, which is the rise of workplace activism. And there was
Oh,
an election here in New York where a very young, inexperienced
mhm.
young man beat a very old, experienced politician in the mayoral election or primary. People are drawing parallels to what's going on in the workplace, and maybe they were listening to the past few episodes of our podcast when they wrote this, because we've been talking about my prediction that there will be an increase in the amount of workplace activism for
Mhm.
a couple of reasons. One is because employers think they have the upper hand now and they're overplaying it. But the other is also a reaction to what's happening with the federal government and, employees taking it out, and younger people just taking it out on any institution of power and authority in our
Yeah.
societies. If you're a manager, if you're an executive, you have to be looking at these trends and like the New York City mayoral election and drawing lessons from it. You have to be doing that. And younger
There
people
is
are
a
for sure.
podcast I listened to. Ezra Klein and Chris Hayes had a conversation on
Sure.
Ezra
Yeah.
Klein's podcast.
Yep.
And they were talking about like what candidates should learn. And he's like, basically, I've read articles at this point that every candidate, every elected official, nay, every human on the planet can now learn lessons from this mayoral ranked choice voting primary.
Right.
I thought that was a funny way to put
Well, look, it's a shocking result, right? I mean,
it.
forget whatever you think about the candidates. It's a shocking result, and that could happen in a city like New York. And look, you could either look at the election yourself and read all the articles around it and try and figure out a lesson, or you could listen to us and we could just tell you that you really need to communicate. You need to listen and understand what your employees want and what they need, and need to meet them somewhere where it makes sense for your business.
I do think one of the big things was Mamdani's combination of both IRL and
Yep.
digital engagement.
Right. And we've talked about the ridiculous stories of people holding down 4 or 5 jobs at a time and concerns about side gigs and whatever. And if you're a manager, if you're an executive, if you're touching base all the time, if you're meeting in person, if you're meeting on Zooms and you're seeing people frequently, they can't have 5 jobs. Okay. So these are just basic techniques. Like, he did not employ rocket science to win this election. He did basic things. He spoke simply, and he really reached out to as many people as possible and in as many
Let
places as
me just
possible.
also caution that not caution, but just point out his mother is one of the most gifted filmmakers of our time,
Right.
Mira Nair. So it's not like it was just like a lucky guess that his video storytelling was
Screen
incredible.
presence.
Yeah, like this isn't like a God, how'd this kid learn to do
Yeah.
that?
Well, look,
And his main experience was as a rapper, I think. So I
it's
am really looking. Listen, one of my favorite writers, Jill Filipovic, wrote in her Substack last week. She called herself an Elizabeth Warren Democrat. And I get that in that, hard work, experience, and knowledge. I like those things. But
you remember when they used to mean something?
I wanna get on board and get excited about this kid
Yeah.
because he has a lot of fire behind him, and I wanna believe he will be great for our city. So,
Well, he has some work to do.
show me.
But what I know is everybody in New York is talking about it. And I know people around the country are talking about it and asking questions. And if you're an executive, you need to like be conscious of what your employees are pulling from this and what you can do from it. So what you can learn from it. So, we're here to help you on that. So
Yes.
keep doing that work.
So we mentioned the not working, the PTO thing. I have worked at a lot of, not a lot, but several tech companies where it was an unlimited PTO.
Mm.
And thus, no
Utopia.
much PTO.
Utopia.
What?
Utopia. You could take just
Yeah.
always taking time off.
Yeah. Time off was not in any way respected in those places.
Right.
Like in no way.
Right.
I
It's
had a
it's
boss once, New Year's Eve day afternoon, found me on a boat. I was, like, on a trip,
yeah. Just say
boat off
yacht.
the
Just say
coast.
it. Yacht.
What?
You're on a
And
yacht.
I was not. It was a sailboat,
It's a safe
and
space. You could admit it if you
it
were.
was a sailboat, and she was just like, "I can't believe you're not working right now," basically.
Yeah.
And it was like, "I know, I'm so sorry."
Unlimited PTO is like
That's
one
what
of the
unlimited PTO results in.
yeah, unlimited PTO is like one of the greatest uh, work employer scams of the past decade. It was initially rolled out as
Brilliant.
this great benefit, but really what it is a way for employers not to pay out PTO when you leave. It's a huge savings. It's a number they could take off their accounting ledgers, on a year to year basis. It's a huge cost savings, and they could put around a ton of rules around it, which they often do, that limits your ability to use it. And, magically, somehow you still end up taking the same amount of PTO as you did before when it was
But
limited.
they save, I mean, when I sent you the thread I saw on this about the Bolt CEO
Right.
saying everybody has 4 weeks and they have to take it, and my friend, the brilliant Peter Kafka, you should also listen to his podcast, said, like, "This is absurd to pretend that this is anything other than a way for employers to not have to pay out vacation days," to your point.
Yeah. He's very smart. I do listen to his podcast,
Oh,
and he's
yeah.
100% correct. So,
Peter, maybe you should come be a guest and discuss with us.
sure. Sure.
It could be Peter and Peter.
Yeah, might be confusing. We
Yeah.
probably shouldn't drink during that one, just to
No,
make
I'm
sure
not
we're
brave enough
very,
to handle that.
very clear-minded.
Yeah, that would be a lot for me.
Right.
Okay, what else is on our
Caitlin
plate? Oh,
Clark
you
didn't.
said something happened with the WNBA this week. What happened?
So here on Across the Bar, we like to keep you ahead of the news a little bit. And you're going to be reading a lot over the next few days and weeks and probably months about the WNBA contract negotiations between the players and the league. And specifically, you're going to hear a lot about Caitlin Clark's salary and how she and other players are underpaid. And
How much does she make?
Caitlin Clark makes on her player contract around $75,000 a year, which probably will trigger everyone to laugh or be outraged.
What do NBA players make, the boys?
Well, the NBA rookies make a lot, and second year players make a lot more than that. The average WNBA player makes around 145,000. The average NBA player makes around 11 million. Now, you will
Women make, say that again,
no, no,
Ian,
Laura, I'm not going to let you go down that road because this is not how to view this story. It's not a men women thing. It is not. And that's why I'm going to help people understand these
please
stories.
do mansplain this to me.
So, yeah, I'm
Do.
not going to mansplain it. I'm going to course correct everybody,
Mhm.
which is this is a collective bargaining environment. Both leagues are in unions. They have union contracts. One of the features of a union contract is a pay scale that's negotiated and set, often many years in advance for many years forward. And the WNBA has really experienced a surge in popularity in the last 2 years,
Yeah.
maybe a little further, but 2 years that Caitlin Clark's been in the league under the old contract, where when they negotiated, the league was not in a similar place. The NBA overall makes a lot more money than the WNBA. So it's not an apples for apples comparison to say the men make 11 million, the women make 140. Now, does that mean the women shouldn't make more money? Of course they should make more money. And of course they have a crazy amount of leverage right now in this negotiation. But I can guarantee you that Caitlin Clark will never be paid on her WNBA contract what she deserves to be paid. It's not going to
I
happen.
just want to go back to your correction there. It is the fact that women make this much and men make this much.
It's not. It's two totally different
I mean,
leagues.
I'm just saying the women who are professional basketball players make this, and men who are professional basketball players make this. It might be two different leagues. That is These are the
Well,
facts.
that is correct. Those are the facts. But to say it's unfair or discriminatory, like, I would argue against that. As someone who normally advocates on behalf of employees
Okay.
and
I want
individuals,
Sadie Raybar's opinion on this is.
yeah, I mean, she understands. We've talked about collective bargaining a lot in our car rides to soccer games and basketball games.
She's a lovely
But look, there will be a
girl.
dramatic increase. I mean, the league has an incredible amount of momentum, and they have a ton of leverage. And these negotiations are all about leverage. And
Yep.
at some point, the players are going to have to make a decision. Will they sit out or go on strike to make more money?
Everybody watches women's sports, as
Yeah.
the T-shirt says.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of women's sports and a big supporter of women's sports. And I hope they like really go at the league hard and get a lot of
Yeah.
money. I mean, we saw women's soccer players on the US national team really have years of litigation and negotiations with the US Soccer Federation to get more pay and bridge the gap between what the men were being paid and what they were being paid. So let's see. I gave you the guide to follow the stories. You're going to see the stories. We're
Yeah.
probably going to talk about this more, but I
Yes.
want people to understand what the issues are. I mean, it's a unique
Yes.
environment. It's not a free market.
All right. So should we do our heroes and zeros?
Let's do it. Why don't you get it started?
All right.
Who's your
My
hero?
my hero is America and the 4th of July.
Wow.
And I think, people decry the idea of American exceptionalism. I deeply believe in it because we are such a diverse group of people. We've got,
Are you allowed to say that
Russians
word?
and Jews making podcasts together. Look at
Yeah.
this. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. I'm just saying, I think there's sometimes the misconception that the left is not patriotic. And I think, 4th of July is a great thing to celebrate the potential, this incredible group of immigrants in this unbelievably gorgeous piece of the world. The potential is unending. And I hope that history does arc towards justice.
That's very nice. Okay. I mean, I can't disagree. I love America. I love the country. My hero is a little different. Keeping it light. My hero I have two. I had really a hard time deciding, so maybe I'll say both really quickly. My hero is Brad Pitt in the F1 movie. I thought it was awesome, and I love F1 obviously. So, everyone should go see it, and he was
I
great.
didn't see that coming. Okay.
Yeah, you didn't see that coming, right? And I even asked, our intern if college age girls think Brad Pitt is, attractive, or is he too old? And the answer was he's not too old.
It's a zaddy.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my hero of the week. Very fun movie, perfect for the summer.
Awesome.
And as a race fan, very, very exciting.
Yeah. My
Who's
zero.
your zero?
My zero is the fact that a case around transgender athletes is going to the Supreme Court. Just so everyone understands, there are more than 8 million high school athletes. It is estimated by a recent article in Teen Vogue, under Varsha Sharma, does incredible journalism, that there are fewer than 160 transgender athletes in high school sports. So 160 people, 8+ million. So that would be like the city of New York is 8 million people. 160 people probably live on my apartment building's floor. This is insane. This is creating a problem where there is not a problem. It's estimated, I think, less than 10 transgender athletes are in college Division I sports. So this is just a way to persecute and ostracize and create fear and animosity around a group of people who just want to live. Stop. This is awful. Friends, this is a poor use of time and will only lead to the further ostracization and persecution of a group of people who just want to live. Stop.
Well said. Well said.
Thank you.
Along the same lines, although you always encourage me to keep it light, I think my zero this week, given our common background in media, it has to be Paramount and their settlement with the administration over
100%. Well done. Good one.
over a complete BS claim. Look, if you don't have the money and strength to fight this ridiculousness, you're really you're not doing your job as a citizen in our society. I mean, this is ridiculous. It's a disservice to the journalists who work there and the employees who work
So
there,
agree.
and to
Unbelievable.
other citizens. Frankly, I mean, it's really sad to see. So
Amen.
sorry to end on that note.
Sadie Raybar, you're always ahead of the curve. Thank you for editing our podcast and for keeping it target. Stay, Peter.
Yeah, thanks, and we'll see everyone next week.